أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.
Firstly, I would like to extend my condolences to all of you on the shahadat of Syeda Zainab alayhi salam, and the brothers who've organized, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a very great honor for myself to travel down here to you guys, and I've also been requested to mix it up a little bit, so do English poetry as well as the Urdu marsiya. So inshallah I'll start with the English poetry and then follow it with the Urdu marsiya with your ijazat. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The first English poem I'm going to recite is written by Sister Abir Safa. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant her the ability to continue to work in the way of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. And when these English poetry and the Urdu poetry is being recited, I urge you to think, take your mind back to Karbala, take it to after Karbala when Syeda Zainab's trials began. Take it back to imagine what she sees when she's standing at Tilla Zainabiyya, when she's seeing all the suffering, when she's seeing Imam Hussain being martyred. After the killing during Sham al-Ghariba, she witnesses the slaps of to Sakina, the scarves being stolen. So take your mind to that moment. Try to imagine yourself being there whilst listening to this, and inshallah, the tears allow your heart to soften and grieve for Abu Abdullah, grieve for Syeda Zainab. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Beneath her shadow I can see not just patience but tragedy. Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. Recite the Ya Zainab part with me as well, inshallah. Beneath her shadow I can see not just patience but tragedy. Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. She is my thoughts, my memories. She is the air that I do breathe. Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. Beneath her shadow, such a mystery. From all I have seen, all that I can be. I've seen oceans pour, life in misery. She is the queen of this time's history. Beneath her shadow I can see not just patience but tragedy. Ya Zainab, Ya. She is my thoughts, my memories. She is the air that I do breathe. Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. My shadow was one that was never seen, forbid by my Amir al-Mu'mineen. I used to walk in my own modesty. Now I walk without my shadow near me. Beneath her shadow I can see not just patience but tragedy. Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. She is my thoughts, my memories. She is the air that I do breathe. Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. Do you remember the days of sorrow that led this heart to become so hollow? I stand here with no one left to follow. I always used to be with my brothers. Beneath her shadow I can see not just patience but tragedy. Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. She is my thoughts, my memories. She is the air that I do breathe. Loudest voice. Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. I used to walk with my only shadow. Now I walk with my only lit candle. In the darkness I roam about in awe. I walk all alone without my shadow. Beneath her shadow I can see not just patience but tragedy. Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. She is my thoughts, my memories. She is the air that I do breathe. Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. I recall the days I had always wept, for sorrow in my heart was always kept. I embrace this life and all its secrets. I can no longer bear any of this. Beneath her shadow I can see not just patience but tragedy. Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. She is my thoughts, my memories. She is the air that I do breathe. Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab, Ya Zainab. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One more of the loudest salawat. This next poem I've previously recited in Leicester, the event of the evening of grief and sorrow, and Brother Saflain actually requested for me to do this one again. And it's written by Brother Nouri Sardar. Again, may Allah bless him to carry on working in the way of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, ameen. And this one is about Syeda Zainab's two children, On and Muhammad. So again, I request you to take your minds back to Syeda Zainab, how she did not weep over her two children, but wept for her brother Imam Hussain instead. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One more of your loudest salawat. Go to sleep, my precious son. Go to sleep, my precious son. On the day of setting sun, goodbye, my sons, On and Muhammad. Goodbye, my sons, On and Muhammad. O day in which I've seen the setting of suns that won't rise, forgive me if for my sons you won't see tears in my eyes. mothers, burnt out candles and blood red feathers. Goodbye, my sons, Own and Muhammad. Forgive me, sons, if in death you don't hear your mother weep. Take your minds back. Sayyidah Zainab is talking to her sons. Forgive me, sons, if in death you don't hear your mother weep. I see nothing but beauty watching you in your blood sleep. But my eyes are distracted, watching fire intensely. I know you lay there in that desert, but I'm told by smoke and my lungs hurt, yearning the scent of Abbas's shirt. Goodbye, my sons, Own and Muhammad. Goodbye, my sons, Own and Muhammad. How can I weep for the sons that my arms would once cradle, when I watch the smoke and wind sway Asghar's empty cradle, and see Rabab's skin tan grey as she stands by it idle, our throats strangled by smoke in the air, yearning patience whilst yearns us despair, as they cry, where is our father, where? Goodbye, my sons, Own and Muhammad. Goodbye, my sons, Own and Muhammad. If I weep for you, who will weep for that candle burnt out? The lion cub of Mujtaba, his body thrown about, the child who wed the soul in faith with no ounce of doubt. I can't leave her one morning alone, for the strikes that reached her child's bone, the groom that chose dust before a throne. Goodbye, my sons, Own and Muhammad. Forgive me, Own, if my eyes forget you and your brother. In Akbar's body I see Muhammad, my grandfather, and his head was struck just like my father's head in Kufa. and by him fell his father Hussain. Goodbye, my sons, Own and Muhammad. How shy I am to weep and catch my tears with my two hands when I see the hands of my Abbas strewn upon the sands. When usually I call his name and straight away he stands. I called his name complaining of thirst, but what does the white of his eyes burst? Before his flag fell, Abbas fell first. Goodbye, my sons, Own and Muhammad. Go to sleep, my precious son. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, inshallah, I will switch to the Urdu poetry for so those of you who do not understand the Urdu language, please bear with me, but I do know there's a lot of you who do. So, inshallah, we can go with that. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
نعرہ تکبیر، اللہ اکبر، نعرہ رسالت، یا رسول اللہ، نعرہ حیدری، یا علی، نعرہ حیدری، یا علی، عظمت محمد و آل محمد بلندر صلوات، اللہم صلی علی محمد.
شام والوں، 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 بیٹیاں ہیں یہ نبی کی نہ ستاؤ. شام والوں، بیٹیاں ہیں یہ نبی کی نہ ستاؤ. شام والوں، بیٹیاں ہیں یہ نبی کی نہ ستاؤ. ہر گلی شہزادیوں کو ایسے تم گھر نہ پھراؤ. شام والوں، بیٹیاں ہیں یہ نبی کی نہ ستاؤ. کل کفا کے حل عطا کے ہے یہ وارث انما کے. کل کفا کے حل عطا کے ہے یہ وارث انما کے. در بدر کو رلا کر مجھ کو ناخون رلاؤ. شام والوں، بیٹیاں ہیں یہ نبی کی نہ ستاؤ. چلتے چلتے ڈھل چکی ہے رات گلیوں میں ہماری. چلتے چلتے ڈھل چکی ہے رات گلیوں میں ہماری. تھک گئے ہیں قیدی بچے بے گناہوں کو بہاؤ شام والوں بیٹیاں ہیں یہ نبی کی نہ ستاؤ دیں گے ہم تم کو دعائیں دے دو کچھ دیر ردائیں دیں گے ہم تم کو دعائیں دے دو کچھ دیر ردائیں گر نہیں دے راہوں کو بجھاؤ شام والوں بیٹیاں ہیں یہ نبی کی نہ ستاؤ خاک پر نیند نہیں آتی یہ تو عصمت کی پلی ہے خاک پر نیند نہیں آتی یہ تو عصمت کی پلی ہے سر برہنا ہے نہ دیکھو سر برہنا ہے نہ دیکھو اپنی نظروں کو جھکاؤ شام والوں بیٹیاں ہیں یہ نبی کی نہ ستاؤ دیکھ لو آل نبی ہے ہم تو اولاد علی ہے دیکھ لو تو اولاد علی ہے کس نے کیا جرم کیا ہے کس نے کیا جرم کیا ہے ہم کو اتنا تو بتا دو شام والوں بیٹیاں ہیں یہ نبی کی نہ ستاؤ برحمت والے محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم. Just one last maftiya about Bibi Zainab. Again, this is in Urdu about Bibi Zainab speaking to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Ijazat hai to. Durud par Muhammad alayhi Muhammad. شبیر میں زینب ہوں تیرا ساتھ نبھاؤں گی شبیر میں زینب ہوں تیرا ساتھ نبھاؤں گی تو سر جو کٹائے گا تو سر جو کٹائے گا چادر میں لٹاؤں گی شبیر میں زینب ہوں تیرا ساتھ نبھاؤں گی تو دین کو بچائے گا تیری سانگ کے سنگ بھیا تیری سانگ بانگ کے سنگ بھیا خطبے میں سناؤں گی درود پر محمد شبیر میں زینب ہوں تیرا ساتھ نبھاؤں گی تو بیٹوں کی لاشوں کو مقتل سے اٹھائے گا کبھی لائے قاسم کو اکبر کبھی لائے گا میرے اون محمد کو مقتل میں ہی چھوڑانا میں اپنے دلاروں کی لاشوں پہ نہ جاؤں گی شبیر میں زینب ہوں تیرا ساتھ نبھاؤں گی اب شام غریبا کی وہ ظالم شام ڈھلی پہرے پہ کھڑی ہوگی تیری زینب بن کے علی اصغر کو سکینہ جب ہائے ڈھونڈنے جائے گی تیری بیٹی کو مقتل سے میں ڈھونڈنے جاؤں گی شبیر میں زینب ہوں تیرا ساتھ نبھاؤں گی گر زندہ رہی زینب تیری قبر پہ آئے گی جو شام میں گزرے گی وہ تم کو بتائے گی ہوتے جردہ سر پہ تیرا کفن بنا دیتی تیری لاش سے ہر پتھر آ کر میں اٹھاؤں گی شبیر میں زینب ہوں تیرا ساتھ نبھاؤں گی تو سر جو کٹائے گا چادر میں لٹاؤں گی شبیر میں زینب ہوں تیرا ساتھ نبھاؤں گی درود پر محمد سورۃ المبارکۃ
نعرہ تکبیر نعرہ رسالت نعرہ حیدری نعرہ حیدری حضرت محمد و آل محمد بلندتر صلوات بار دیگر بلندتر صلوات
Just a few announcements before we like to start with the main speaker guest. If any brother or sister would like to donate towards this event, please see one of the Khudam al-Mahdi volunteers. I am thankful to the sponsors of this event, all donators with the Siklan, with the Mayfield Shiblan and the community of Newport. and more thankfully to all our special guests and all our brothers and sisters who attended on time towards the Syeda Zainab event. Nice and salawat. I want a nice and salawat that our voices go to sing. That we are granted the ziyarat of Syeda Zainab, and obviously over the period of time it's been closed due to the war, and inshallah there are qafle going this week sometime towards Syria. So before I'd like to invite our special guest, Brother Syed Muhammad Murtadha Naqvi, just some background information. Brother Murtadha Naqvi from the United Kingdom. His lineage goes back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Through the 10th Holy Imam, Imam Ali al-Naqvi alayhi salam. He has studied under Sheikh Abba Jafar, Sheikh Mustafa Jafar, Ayatollah Fadil Milani, Ayatollah Hakim, Dr. Boya, Dr. Mishbi, and Dr. Syed Amanak Shawani. He has lectured all globally around the world in Canada, Australia, New York, Norway, Scotland, Cardiff. It's a very long list. In short, he has completed his degree in Bachelor's in Islamic Studies with Arabic language from Islamic College in London and Masters in Religion and Theology from University of Manchester. I'd like to invite our special guest, Brother Murtadha Naqvi, to the pulpit. Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat.
لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا زهراء لبيك يا زهراء لبيك يا زهراء لبيك يا زهراء ناري هاجري ناري لندر صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Inshallah, before I begin the Majalis, I just want to thank, obviously, everyone that's come today. Thank you for the committee who invited me, and generally everyone who's travelled from far and wide. I know everyone's quite a few people from Manchester, Birmingham sides, and quite a few places. So I just want to thank everyone before I begin the Majlis, and inshallah, everyone can gain benefit as much as I did from doing the research of the Majlis. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا والشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين المظلومين المنتجبين المنتخبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على وصي مصطفى عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم
العظيم أبي الحسنين مولى القونين إمام الثقلين يأسوب الدين سيد المتقين رأس المحسنين سلطان الأولياء أمير المؤمنين أول المسلمين أسد الله الغالب غالب كل غالب مظهر العجائب علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي لا يحتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يخيب آمله. أما بعد فيقول الله في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما صاحبكم بمجنون. Brothers, sisters, respected elders, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You find that the verse that I quoted to you just now is from chapter 81, verse 22. And the translation of this verse comes to that your companion is not a majnoon. And you find, when you look into the word of janoon within Arabic and indeed within Urdu, indeed Farsi as well, because they literally have the same meaning in each of those languages. Janoon is the state of being in madness or being a crazy individual, and that's why it's called majnoon, because that's actually talking about the individual. So when you say majnoon, usually people refer to that as someone who's crazy, who's mad, and who doesn't really have all of his senses there. And that's why those sorts of people are exempt from, for example, capital punishment within the religion of Islam. So in terms of punishment, someone who's majnoon, he won't be punished. Or for example, when it comes to leading salah, you find the insane person, he cannot lead the prayers. And indeed, when it comes to fasting, an insane person doesn't have to fast, and indeed doesn't have to make up for his fast that he missed whilst he was insane, because he was insane, and that's one of the main reasons to why he doesn't have to make up the fast, he doesn't have to make up the prayers. But you find that I'm not really interested in the meaning of majnoon in that sense. Why? Because we know for a fact that the Holy Prophet and indeed other personalities who have been labelled majnoon over their lifetime, who we will discuss soon enough, you find that each one of these personalities were labelled majnoon not because they were crazy or because they were mad, no, of course not. But rather they were labelled majnoon or mad or crazy because they had a certain obsession with something. See, sometimes when you see an individual, you know, you see an individual and it's, for example, Ramadan, and he says to you, you know what, brother, I'm going to pray 100 units of prayer, and it's Ramadan, I'm going to do that every night. First of all, you turn around and say, are you crazy? Are you mad? Is he saying that, are you insane? No, he's not saying, are you insane? He's saying that, what is your obsession with this thing? As in, why are you so obsessed? See, when you speak of janoon, janoon is not just a matter of being insane or crazy or mad, no. It's about having an obsession about something. See, that's another meaning of it. And when you have an obsession for something, you realize that rationality doesn't really exist when it comes to being in the state of janoon. And indeed, rationality itself, you know, has four different bases according to the academic Max Weber. See, he says the first or basis is instrumental, the second is traditional, the other is belief orientated, and the fourth is affectual. And each one of these have meanings, but what we want to concern with is two of them. And the two being one, which is belief orientated, and two, affectual, which is derived by your emotion. Because even within your emotion, there's a certain concept of rationality. Because why are you emotional about something? Because you believe in it. Why? And religiously speaking, right? I'm sure you individuals remember the debate between Mehdi Hassan and Richard Dawkins. What did Richard Dawkins say to Mehdi Hassan? If those of you remember, he'd say, Mehdi, you're an academic man, you're a knowledgeable man, Do you believe in the flying Pegasus? Do you believe in the horse that the Prophet went on Mi'raj on, the flying horse? Do you believe? Mehdi said, yes, I do. See, for us, because we come from a religious basis of rationality, we believe in the flying horse. We do. We believe in Mi'raj. But you find that people like Richard Dawkins, people who are outside of our own community, who are outside of our own religion, may see something as irrational or illogical. And therefore they will not understand what is our obsession. What is our obsession with the Mi'raj? What is our obsession with the Prophet? What is our obsession with Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullah And indeed they won't understand why we are so obsessed with these things. Because their rational construct, their logic is based on a different realm, on a different basis. So how are they going to understand us? See, there's certain things you can explain. See, we can have rational discussions about God. You can't have a rational discussion about Mi'raj. There's no rational way to have a discussion about Mi'raj. There isn't. Either you believe it or you don't. There's no two ways about it. Sometimes you have to believe in certain things. Jesus is still alive. Some people believe it, some people don't. You can't have a rational discussion about it. It's just the way it is. So therefore our rationality is based on our religion. And indeed, in certain realms, our culture as well. And you find that when you have an obsession with something, and you are majnoon of something, people will label you such. They will label you such. When people say to you, you're crazy, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're insane. No, it means that you're obsessed. Why? I'll give you an example of the Prophet. See, the Prophet knew that if he goes to Ta'if, he's going to be pelted with stones. He knows he's going to come out there battered and bruised. He knows. There's no way that the Prophet didn't know that. Not from a Wahi perspective, but generally speaking, the populace in Ta'if, they were all on the side of Quraysh anyway. You don't go into hostile territory. Why? Because it's what? It's illogical. That's not rational, is it? But you find that the Prophet had a certain obsession with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His obsession was that I will spread this message irrelevant of what trials come in front of me. You can throw, for example, excretion on me, doesn't make a difference. You can throw intestines on me, you can pelt me with stones, you can batter and bruise me from the inch of my life. That I can have blood all over my face and sit there after a dive, but you know what? I will not be deterred. And that's why you find that people called him such. They said, you're mad, you're crazy. But in that instance, those people actually believed that. But there's another concept that people don't discuss. They don't discuss this part of craziness, it's obsession. Why did he continuously do the things that he done? Because he's obsessed. His obsession was such that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turns around and says, pray part of the night, please. Pray part of the night. Your body can't handle it. And that's why when you're obsessed with something, you don't care about the trauma of your body. You don't care anymore. Those of you, for example, I'll bring it down a notch. You know, those of you who have a business and you work 9 till 9. 9 till 9 every single day. I'm sure someone's called you crazy before. But it's not crazy, it's because you're obsessed. Or for example, you look at sporting stars. Not so that we can understand. Because people say, oh, well, I can't relate to the Prophet, he was living 1,400 years ago. Fair enough. Let's try to relate to people who we know. People like who? I'll give you a perfect example, the youth will know, the elders will know. Floyd Mayweather. It's an obsession. Why is he so good at what he does? He's obsessed. Or for example, when people looked at individuals and said they couldn't run quicker than the 1 minute mile. 1950s, they said you can't run quicker than the 1 minute mile. It's not possible. Now even your normal person on the street who's been eating burger and chips all his life, he can run quicker than the 1 minute mile. But you understand that at the beginning, someone had to push through and have an obsession to do it. Someone had to do it and then everyone else followed. Because then it doesn't become an obsession, then it becomes normal, doesn't it? That's why now in society, everything's become normal. Because the Prophet's already done the blueprint. Amir al-Mu'mineen followed the blueprint. And you find that then all of these things happen, it all comes naturally now. Everyone's religious. Everyone's praying 100 units of prayer. Everyone's doing, Salat al-Layl. Everyone's praying 5 times a day. Everyone's doing 52 and 51 and 105 and 215 units of prayer a day. It's normal. Everyone's doing it. Maybe not in England, but if you go to Qom, I'm sure they are doing it. Yes? But you find that this is what's happening. Someone had to open the door. And the only way to open the door is through obsession. There's no other way. So then people would say to Muhammad, but you're talking about obsession, but I don't really understand where you're coming from. I really don't. What do you mean to have an obsession? That's the problem. See, I can give you examples of what an obsession is. I can tell you that, listen, an obsession is, for example, you go gym 7 times a day. And sometimes you don't feel that once in a day is enough, so you go twice a day. And everyone is around you, your mom, your dad, your brother, says, what's wrong with you? Have you gone mad? Have you gone completely crazy? Your body can't handle it. But no, he realizes that his body will adapt. And we'll talk about body adapting, very uniquely in just a few moments. But you find that this obsession will allow you to push beyond any boundaries that you currently have. And trust me, the path that we're talking about, when we talk about obsession, people won't understand it. And the reason to why they won't understand it is because they've never lived it. See, they always bring that, the story, you've heard it so many times of Majnoon and Layla, Majnoon and Layla. You hear the story so many times, you get sick of it. Everyone's talking about Majnoon and Layla. You think, why are they talking about Majnoon and Layla? But you find that, why is he called Majnoon? Because that's all he knows. He only knows Layla. He only knows Layla. And if you've read the book, The Conference of the Birds, which is a very grand book in terms of Islamic spirituality, and indeed the sort of spiritual wayfarer, if you want to put it that way, that book is very fundamental. I believe it's a very fantastic book. And they say that there's 7 valleys that the spiritual wayfarer needs to surpass. 7 valleys. One of the valleys is the valley of love. The valley of love. And I can't really explain love to you, because unless you've been in love, then you won't really know what love is. And that doesn't necessarily mean falling in love with the opposite gender. I'm talking about how much higher love. We're talking about the love between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The sort of love that the Prophet of God stays up all night and prays and his feet become swollen. Or for example, the love that Yaqub had for Yusuf to the extent that he became blind. Richard Dawkins, if he had a story like that, he said, look how irrational Yaqub is. He would say, look how irrational he is. Look how irrational he is. Yet we are here and we hear the story and we say, MashaAllah. Why? Because our rationality is based on our religion, our belief system. That's why we say MashaAllah. See, if you told this story to someone else, someone on a neutral perspective, what would they say? So why did you cry to the extent he became blind? That's unethical, isn't it? That's unmoral, isn't it? That's not fair on his body. How is he going to do the daily task? How is he going to support his other children? If you think about it. But you find that it was such a greater obsession that they had with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they had with Yusuf, or they had with, for example, Layla. And the only way to understand and comprehend something is to dwell into it. And that's why in the Valley of Love, in the book, The Conference of the Birds, he says something very beautiful. That there's, and he gives the metaphor of butterflies, and there's loads of butterflies, and obviously there's the chief butterfly and then the smaller, the butterflies. And you find that the chief butterfly says, he says there's a flame. There's a flame in the far part of the country, and I want someone to explain to me what that flame is. So he sends one butterfly to the flame. He gets to the flame, he looks at the flame, and he comes back. And he says to the chief, he says, I saw the flame. What a wonderful flame it was. I've fallen in love with the flame. He goes, no, because you haven't. He goes, you had lust for the flame, lust of the eyes. He looked at it, took in the sweetness of the flame and came back. That's not love. So he sends another one. Another butterfly goes towards the flame. And this butterfly goes towards the flame, and he gets some of his wings burnt. Gets some of his wings burnt, so he comes back towards the chief. And the butterfly says, I felt the love of the flame. I felt the love of the flame. It touched me, and it burnt me, but I felt the love. says, no, you haven't understood what love is. Because you've only delved into it for a few moments. That's not love. He sells one other butterfly, and they all go with this butterfly. And this butterfly goes completely in the flame. He gets destroyed in the flame. You know, the chief turns around and says to all of them, he says, only that butterfly will know what true love is, because he was engulfed by it, engulfed by the flames of the love of the candle. So I can't explain to you. See, I can't explain to you what it means to be obsessed with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you have to go and put yourself in there. You have to indulge in that love, in that obsession. Until you don't, you won't really know what the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. You really won't. And I tell you, when you go on this journey, let's call it a journey. You go on this journey, then along this path, I tell you, you're going to find many carcasses. So Muhammad, carcasses of what? Carcasses of people who tried to go on the journey, but they couldn't get to the destination. Why? Because they didn't know what the destination was. Understand the point? Many of us, when it comes to Ramadan, Ramadan is around the corner. When it comes to Ramadan, how many of us begin to pray Salat al-Layl? Say 80% of us. We pray Salat al-Layl, and we're praying all our prayers, and we don't swear, and we're good human beings for 1 month. We are, we're very good. We keep all our fasts, mashallah, we do everything correctly, and we don't do anything wrong, and even if we had any sorts of relationships, we end those relationships because it's Ramadan, and you really haven't got any time to do anything, to be honest. But you end everything. Why? Because it's Ramadan. But then as soon as Ramadan is over, you begin to go back into the things that you were already doing. Why? Why do you go back? Because your goals weren't set. Your goals were not set. If I ask a businessman and I said to him, what is your goal of establishing a business? He'll say, my goal is to establish a business. I'll say, alright, you might be able to establish a business, but your business will never be world class. I say to someone who wants to go into sports, cricket, football, UFC, boxing, whatever, it doesn't make a difference. I said, what do you want to do with sports? What do you want to do? What's your end goal? He says, I want to be a professional. I said, good, you'll join the rest of the sheep. I said, good, you join the rest of the sheep. Because you didn't say that your goal is to be the best of the best. I'm sorry, you won't get anywhere. Or for example, when it comes to, I don't know, even Majalis, becoming a lecturer, or becoming a speaker, or becoming a reciter. So what's your goal? My goal is to be a reciter. I said, well done. You'll join everyone else in the back of the queue to become a reciter. Until your goal is not clear, then you will not be able to reach your destination. See, what's the point of me setting a goal? Like, for example, me setting a goal that, I don't know, I'm going to become a lecturer. Anyone can become a lecturer. It's not hard. You don't really need to do Islamic studies. You just read in your own center for a few days. Another center here is next door. They invite you. You're a lecturer. Simple. Job done. Finished. The thing is, if you aim low, then that's what you'll get. You'll achieve your aim. You'll achieve your aim. People say, I'm going to reach, I'm going to aim for the moon and I'll reach the stars. It doesn't even make sense. The stars are further away. That means your goal is useless already. It's a logical goal. No, brother, you need to reach for the stars so you reach the moon, at least. See, this is the issue. See, when you talk about obsession, then obsession is not just 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 7 day, 3 months, 6 months, a year. No, obsession is for life. You eat it, you breathe it, and you sleep it. And to give you an example here, people ask me, so do you mean obsession as in love? I do mean obsession as in love. Because if you don't have love for it, then you can't have an obsession for it. That's why you find that Amir al-Mu'mineen sold his soul for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمِنِ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَشْرِي نَفْسَهُ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ. He sold his soul for the pleasure of Allah. Why? لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. You will never attain righteousness until you give of that which you love. Give of that which you love. Understand the fact If you've got a nice car, you give of that which you love. Brother, you won't attain it. You may love that car, but that's not what you truly love. It's that Armani jacket that you wear all the time, brother. Give that in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're giving it. But no, you won't attain that righteousness still. It's not there. What's the thing that you hold most dear to yourself? That's the question. What's the most intrinsic thing within yourself? Who is it? It's you. It's you. There's nothing greater than you. Amir al-Mu'mineen shows that. Sell your soul for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Enter the obsession. Be in the love. Because until you don't do that, then you won't understand. You won't taste the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many hadith have you read, brothers and sisters? How many hadith? Lower your gaze and we will show you things that you've never seen before. Lower your gaze. Lower your gaze. Brothers like, bro, you know, I've lowered my gaze for 10 years. I've not seen anything. 10 years. I said, because that's all you did. You lowered your gaze. You didn't have that obsession. You didn't have that love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. See, if you want to be the best at something, then you have to have an obsession. Many of us here, what's our goals and aspirations in life? Ya Allah, please get me to paradise. Allah will get you to paradise. But what's the point of being mediocre? Why do you want to get to the 7th level of paradise when you can get to the 1st level? Why? If you're going to do something, be the best at the thing. Don't waste your time. Either do it with your heart and soul, give it 110%, and I'd use 110 very knowingly, 110%. Otherwise, why do you want to be mediocre? And I'll tell you one thing. You know, people say that, you know, once you come into the path of the deen, it becomes very easy for you. You know, people have this mentality that as soon as I come into religion, everything's going to be easy for me now. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very hard. It's going to be very hard. You know why? I'm not going to say it. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib he says, after you have tasted the sweetness of disobedience, I want you to highlight these points. After you have tasted the sweetness of disobedience, then it will be time when you come into the real zone, and then you'll have to taste the bitterness of obedience. Amir al-Mu'mineen doesn't use words unknowingly, because it is sweet to sit on the sofa and eat chocolate all day and not pray and not go to work and not have any aspirations in life. How many people say that? They go to work 9 to 5. How many do they do dua? Ya Allah, please give me £1 million so I can sit on my backside all day and do nothing. They do it. I'm telling you. Maybe not so the elder generation, but the younger generation most definitely. They're looking for excuses not to do anything. Mom's like, take out the bin, and they're like, the bin? What's that? This is what's happening. But I tell you, you've tasted it now. You've had your fun. You've tasted the sweetness of disobedience for 10 years, 5 years, 15, 20, 30, however many years you've tasted it. But now it's the time for the bitterness of obedience. If you're going to come and tell me, Muhammad, you know, it's easy for me to wake up for Fajr. It's easy. I'm sorry, brothers. It's not easy. If you come and tell me that, brother, you know, Salat al-Layl every day, no problem. I'll say, mashallah. But if you say to me it's easy, I'll say, brother, you're a liar. It's not easy at all. Because if it was easy, then Amir al-Mu'mineen wouldn't have said the bitterness of obedience. Because initially, when you start anything in your life, it will be bitter. Anything. Anything. Job, gym, business, work, sports, anything. It'll be bitter. You'll hate it. And I remember You know, people asked Muhammad Ali, they said, how did you do the phantom punch? How did you do the phantom punch? Half the people didn't see the knockout punch. How did you do it? He said, it's called the bitterness of obedience. They go, do you like training? Ask any sort of sports person, do you like training? They'll all tell you, no, we hate training. We hate it. So why do you do it? Because we realize that our goals are greater than our pain. Our goals are greater than our pain. And that's why we're talking about Sirat al-Mustaqim. See, on this path, on this Sirat of the straight, on this Sirat that Ahlul Bayt treaded on, you name me one moment of their life that was easy. One moment. Tell me one moment where it was easy. Was it easy when the Prophet died and they took everything? Was that easy? Was that easy for them? Was that the easy part? Or was the easy part when, for example, the Prophet was outcast by his own family, his own uncles? Was that easy? Or for example, when the Prophet had to go to war with the Quraysh, or when they had to go to war with the Jews, or had to go to war with X party and Z party, had to fight off the hypocrites within. Was that easy for them? You know, when you come onto the path of the righteous path, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. You know, the Prophet said that 9/10 of your faith is earning a halal rizq. Do you know why he says that? Because it's not easy. It's not easy. So I can go out and I can make haram money, and I'm trust. You know, people know that they can make a lot of money through illegal and illegitimate means. They know it, and they know the right people to get in contact with to do that as well. Everyone has those sort of contacts. But you know the reality is, 9/10 of faith is earning a halal rizq. So next time you turn around and say to someone, brother, why are you working 48 hours in a 24-hour day? Why? Why are you working these many hours? Because you realize that even in those 24 hours, it's like 48 hours for him. Because it is. Ask the person who has to wake up for Fajr at 6 a.m., goes to work, comes back at 9, he goes there and does deliveries till at 1 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't get any sleep. Then he comes home, he has to take care of his kids, then he stays awake, he can't even go to sleep. These are 24 hours, but they're like 48. And there are some people doing that on a 7-day rota. See, when Ahlul Bayt speak, they speak for a reason. They don't speak because they want people to hear them. No, they speak because they speak with weight. Because whatever the Prophet said is wahi. Surah Najm, first 5 verses, very clear. Everything he says is wahi. So therefore you have to make it a part of your life. So you're sitting in this majlis, and some of us are thinking, when is he going to finish? Some of us are thinking, when is the food going to come? Some of us are thinking, you know, what am I going to do when I go home tonight? Some of us are thinking, I missed this football game, that football game. But that's the thing. See, if you were obsessed, if you truly had love, then you wouldn't be thinking about these things. And I speak to myself before I speak to any of you. But if we were truly obsessed with the notion of loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore the Ahlul Bayt, then we would be chalking at a chance to gain a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of a different perspective. Not everyone may agree with me. Not everyone may agree with the techniques that I use, or the examples that I bring. But the reality is, until we have not gained an obsession into the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like the Prophet, like Amir al-Mu'min, like the Ahlul Bayt, then we will never attain that true righteousness. We'll never gain that high position that we want. Because I'll tell you one thing, you know, people's opinion will always be there. People's opinion will always be there. The Prophet had to go through it, Amir al-Mu'mineen had to go through it, Ahlul Bayt had to go through it. Don't worry about what people have to say. What are people going to say? They say, oh, you didn't do that right, you didn't do that right, he done this, he done that. So what? What is the perception of people when the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are watching you? What difference does it make to anyone? So therefore, when you go into this, path of the spiritual wayfarer and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and gaining that insight and looking through the eyes of the heart and not these physical eyes, then you realize where you are and who you are. So until we don't realize who we are, you could ask this question to anyone here, who are you? People won't know the answer. I may not know the answer. But that just shows I've been here for 25 years and I still don't know who I am. Whereas people who've been here for 20 years and 30 years and 40 years and 50 years, they don't know who they are. They don't know what they stand for. They don't know what they're doing with their life. Why? Because it all brings it back to the goals. What was your goal at the beginning? If your goal is not right, then the journey is pointless. Because you get lost in the journey. Because when you're treading on the path of Sirat al-Mustaqim, I'll tell you, there'll be shaitan on one side whispering in your ear. There'll be shaitan on one side. There'll be your friends on another side. What will your friends say to you? Your friends will say, it's time for Dhuhr. Brother, let's go out. Let's go out. We've all been in this situation. Let's go out. It's time for Maghrib. It's just time for Maghrib right now. Okay, let's go out. Yeah, let's go out. We'll pray later, inshallah. But he comes back 4 a.m. time for Fajr. Prayer is gone. See, until you don't have an obsession with gaining and entrusting yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you will continue to lose out. We will continue to lose out. We'll get affected by the naysayers. We'll get affected by our friends, our family members. And that's the difference. If you're not going to learn anything from Ahlul Bayt, at least learn that they were people who were never deterred. They made a decision, they stuck with it. That's it. I'm not even going to listen to myself now. Because one of the greatest enemies is you. You are your greatest enemy. You are your greatest enemy, the man in the mirror. But until you don't set your goals, set your priorities right, then all of this is everything. What's the point of it? Because it's for you to taste that bitterness and to move forward. And indeed, when you do have this obsession, people will call you crazy. People call you crazy. I'll give you an example in society today. When people say, oh, why don't you shake hands with the opposite gender? Why? Some religion doesn't allow it. Well, it's irrational. Are women not equal? What's equality got to do with anything? No, women and men are not equal. Men are different and women are different. There's no equality there. If you can say, for example, Bolt is the fastest runner in the world, and the fastest female runner is like 10, 11 seconds, then there's no comparison between the two, then is there really? Because 1 second sports is a massive difference. Everyone has their designated roles and everyone has their designated ability. But that is only perfected through practice. That's what we don't understand. You have to practice to become like Malik al-Ashtar. Everyone knows who Malik al-Ashtar is. In the battle of Siffin, he was the only man to draw with Amir al-Mu'mineen in the number of killings on that day. To draw. That's saying something. Do you know why? Because he dedicated his life to the craft of fighting. Night, day and night, that's all he done. He used to fight and pray, fight and pray, fight and pray, practice and pray. It's not going to be easy. I'm sorry to say, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but we need to be like who? We need to be like Khomeini. So what do you mean be like Khomeini? Ayatollah Khomeini says something very beautiful. He goes towards doing wudu in Kitab al-Salah. He goes towards doing the ablution, and he carries the water in his hands. And he says, look at the water.
understand the clarity of water. Understand the clarity of water. You look at how clear water is, and that's how you should be. That's how your clarity should be. But I want to go one step further. See, look how clear the water is, but look how easy it slips between your fingers as well. How clear is water, but how easily does it slip between the fingers? It shows that irrelevant of how clear your ambitions and goals are, there will be times when you slip. And in those moments of adversity, in those moments of when you don't feel like praying, when you don't feel like coming to the mosque, then that is the time you should be pushing yourself to come to the mosque. Go towards your prayer. That is the time. See, I can come here and I feel like doing my majlis and it'll be a wonderful majlis. Or Brother Imran or Brother Zaigham, they'll come up here and they'll feel like doing their poetry today. They'll do wonderful poetry. But the question is, will we be able to perform at the same level when we don't want to be here? Because that is the bitterness of obedience. That's what makes our character. That's what makes our faith. In times of hardship, anyone can be a good human being. Anyone can be obsessed. Anyone can love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the times of ease. But when it comes to the times of hardship, when it comes down to the crunch, then will you be able on the same level? Will you be on the same level? Because I'll tell you one thing. Okay? I'll tell you one thing. You'll never be able to understand the whole of the religion if you're only stuck in a small box. Just like you'll never be able to see the whole of the forest if you're only amongst the trees. How are you going to understand the whole forest when you're amongst 2 trees? You can't. And that's why, brothers and sisters, you know what realm we're in, what time we're in. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said Islam was something strange, and then I brought it into this world. Islam will become something strange once again, so give glad tidings to the strangers. Give glad tidings to the... if you understood that one point, give glad tidings to the strangers. And I'll tell you, Shia of Ali Muhammad, you are strangers. Each and every one of you here, you are strangers. You are strangers amongst the Muslim community. You are strangers amongst the Jewish, the Christian, every single community. You know why? Because you are the minority. You are the minority. You are the strangers. The Prophet says, give glad tidings to the strangers. You know what that means? Give glad tidings to the people who go against the grain of society. Go against the grain of the majority. See, this is the beauty of this. That's why you find that Abu Abdullah, he was a stranger. Yes? What did they call him? They call him a stranger. Why did they call him a stranger? Why did they call him Imam Raza? Salawatullah, salamu alayhi. Why do they call all these individuals strangers? Because they left the vicinity of their homes to go to places that they shouldn't be. Why did they go? Why? Because of their obsession with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because they truly had muwadda. But you know, the reality is we've never actually understood what muwadda is. Brother and sister, I want to tell you, muwadda is the truest form of obsession. So what is muwadda? People ask me, Muhammad, what is muwadda? And I was trying to find a meaning, and I must have been researching for at least a month, and I couldn't find a solid meaning. Couldn't understand the concept of muwadda myself. I sat down and I was going through this book, and I read something, and I want to share it with you guys today. And it said true muwadda is only told by the fish.
So what do you mean the fish? So true Muwadda is explained by the fish. It says the fish is in water. And when the fish is removed from water, it begins to gasp for breath. It wants to go back into the water, doesn't it? He said, is that Muwadda? He says, no, that's not Muwadda. He goes, that's a sort of, love where it's a lustful love. Once the desire is over, when it gets back into the water, it continues with its life. That's not Muwadda. It says the fish dies. Fish dies. Fish dies and it's there. And then, the fish is processed, it comes to Tesco, then one of the brothers here picks it up, takes it home, and he cooks it, he grills it, he fries it, he bakes it, however he makes the fish, it doesn't matter. He makes the fish, then he eats the fish. And you realize that when you eat fish, something happens to you. Yes? I'm not saying, you have problems with your stomach, no. Some of you are thinking that. But no, what happens to you is that you become thirsty. You become thirsty. And they said to me that that's what Muwadda is. So, but what do you mean? He says that Muwadda is when you find the perfect example on the battle of Karbala. That's where it was found. That when they were asked that leave Abu Abdullah, they said no. They said even if we were chopped into 1,000 pieces, and those pieces turned into ashes, and those ashes blew away, it doesn't matter because we would do that 1,000 times for Abu Abdullah. So each of those ashes would call out Abu Abdullah's name. And that's what true Muwadda is. See, that's the sort of level we need to have as an obsession to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You've got to live it, breathe it. And I tell you, it's not easy. And I tell you that there's no other personality to tell you other than Lady Zainab. If you want to see someone who has an obsession with the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then there's no other example like Lady Zainab. They say Abu Abdullah saw a lot. Abu Abdullah saw a lot and he went through a lot of pain, no doubt. No doubt. But I tell you what Lady Zainab went through. Lady Zainab went through something else. Where do you begin and where do you finish with Lady Zainab? Do you want me to begin when Lady Zainab saw her mother's bones crushed underneath the door? Is that where you want me to begin? Or do you want me to begin when Lady Zainab saw her father's head sliced into two? Is that where you want me to begin? See, any other man or woman, brothers and sisters, they would have done, they would have been finished. But you find the obsession of Lady Zainab continued. That she said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the greatest of the greatest. She used to say Allahu Akbar. And I tell you, she done the Allahu Akbar like no other individual. That I would ask, oh Lady Zainab, on Karbala, what did you seek? And she would probably turn around and say to me, oh Muhammad, on the day of Ashura, what are you asking of me? Where do you want me to begin my musibah? Where do you want me to finish it? I saw my son's own and Muhammad's blood mixed in the sands of Karbala. Zainab saw. But for me, the one that gets me every time is when Lady Zainab returns back to Medina. When Lady Zainab returns back to Medina, when she returns back to Medina, she sees that none of her family is there. She goes into the house of her husband and begins to cry. Why does she cry? She lets out a scream and says, "Oh, that Muhammad, I didn't cry for you in Karbala. I didn't cry for you in Sham. But now how can I not cry for you when I see your beds in front of me and I can smell the fragrance of own and Muhammad? Oh, that Muhammad, please forgive me, for there was no one to cry for Abu Abdullah when his body was mutilated under the hooves of the horses." And they say, brothers and sisters, throughout her life she would cry and she would speak of the Messiah, of Abu Abdullah and the family. And eventually a time came when she went back to Sham. When she went back to Sham, she saw a place where the head of Abu Abdullah was. When she saw the place where Abu Abdullah's head was placed near the tree, she began to cry. She began to cry, and throughout her life, I tell you, she did nothing but cry. From the death of her mother to the point of her death, all she did was cry. So cry for her tonight, brothers and sisters. They say she began to cry for Abu Abdullah because his head was placed there and there was a red place there. When she began to cry, one of the mal'oon, who was the friends of Yazid, came from behind and struck the head of Sister, ask you to raise your hands for dua. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.